was called the world's first pregnant man, and today he gave birth.
But the court has gone the whole way, said there is an absolute constitutional right in same-sex marriage.
Hurricane Harvey is pelting the Texas coastline.
There is an increasing attack on freedom of religious speech.
Welcome to the Issachar Hour, examining law, policy, and culture through the lens of the Judeo-Christian worldview to help you understand the times and know what you ought to do.
Those violent protests erupting overnight at UC Berkeley. The campus locked down as more than 1,000 people rallied against the appearance of a controversial editor from Breitbart, Milo Yiannopoulos. The clashes escalated, the speech was canceled, and just moments ago, President Trump did weigh in again. ABC's Kana Warworth is on the scene in Berkeley with all the latest. Good morning, Kana.
And George, good morning. It was a terrifying night. Campus police issuing a shelter-in-place order after college Republicans invited Milo Yiannopoulos to speak. Now, behind me, this is a police generator that was knocked over and set on fire when these protests turned into a riot. Overnight mayhem on campus. The University of California, Berkeley erupting in flames as over 1,000 came out to protest an appearance by the self-described right-wing internet troll Milo Yiannopoulos.
We will not tolerate racism or sexism or hate crimes and violence. He's a fascist, and Berkeley did not welcome him.
At least 6 people were injured, including this Trump supporter who was pepper sprayed. The university canceling the speech.
Hey, Milo, we shot you down.
Riot police even retreating to the building for safety. You can hear them urging the crowds to leave.
I think we have a right to say that we don't want him here. And
the standoff intensifying as protesters lit fireworks, police firing back.
It's going too far right now. This is uncalled for. This is not going to get no message across.
Yiannopoulos, an editor for Breitbart News and an avid supporter of President Trump, responding on Facebook, posting this video.
Because they're so threatened by the idea that a conservative speaker might be persuasive and interesting and funny and might persuade, might take some people with him. They just have to shut it down at all costs.
And President Trump taking to Twitter this morning, asking the question, no federal funds if UC Berkeley does not allow free speech. Robin.
All right, Kana, thank you very much.
Well, good day, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to the Issachar Hour on MTM TV. MTM is the TBN of the Caribbean. My name is Wayne West. This is my wife, Doreen. And we are discussing over the next few episodes the closing of the university mine. Is that correct? That's what we're supposed to be doing?
Well, yes, that is a topic that we are looking at today on the Issachar Hour. The closing of the university mine. What do you mean by that? Well, I think the video that we opened with is a good illustration of the end product of that closing of the mine, because certainly
a very dynamic closure, I must say.
Those
dramatic fire.
Those students who set that fire, burned the place down almost, in order to prevent the speaker from saying what he thought.
Yeah.
It was in fact a dangerous and a dramatic and an extreme form of suppression of free speech.
The closing of the university mine. Isn't that an
suppression
oxymoron?
Of free speech.
Isn't that an oxymoron?
Well, I don't know.
Oxymoron, by the way, is something where you put together two opposing concepts. So it's like saying a girl boy. That's an oxymoron.
Well, some people say an honest lawyer. Or something like that.
I didn't want to get into that.
Well, I mean, girl boy is not usually an oxymoron. That's just silly to say girl boy. Right. An oxymoron is using two terms which usually are mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
So like, okay, let us say honest doctor, honest lawyer, so on, right?
So a closed university mine is an oxymoron.
In a way, it should be an
oxymoron.
Because at the university, the one thing you ought to have at the university is an open mind. In that, what you mean an open mind is it ought to be a place where free ideas content.
Free exchange
Ideas
of ideas.
content freely.
Yeah.
And persons are able to analyze, to look at facts, to listen, to talk, to dialogue, and to conclude by reason.
Debate, reason, yeah.
Debate, reason. Test what you believe in the face of what other persons contend against what you believe. So test what you believe against the opposite contention.
By argument.
By argument and by reason.
Yeah, using logic.
Yes, and in a university, if nowhere else, the remedy for speech that is false ought to be speech that is true.
That is Anthony Kennedy, yeah?
Right. So in a university, if nowhere else, that ought to be the way it operates.
But at the University of California at Berkeley, that wasn't so. In fact, the guy who was supposed to be speaking there is a fellow called Milo Yiannopoulos. I hope I pronounced it correctly. He is of Greek ancestry, but I think he's British, and he is himself a homosexual, and he is, however, a conservative homosexual.
Yes, conservative views.
He wrote for a magazine called Breitbart, which is a right-wing conservative magazine, and the University at California, Berkeley is a liberal left-wing institution, and the students there were having none of it that he should come and give a talk there.
No, so, he was invited there
by the conservative students.
Absolutely. So he didn't just appear on the campus and say, "Here am I am going to impose my views on you students who don't want to hear me."
No.
He was invited there by one section of the student body. We must say that.
Yeah.
And he came in response to their invitation.
Yeah.
So those students who did not want to hear him had a simple remedy: just not turn up.
Well, no, that wasn't good enough. They took it literally to the streets. They say he couldn't talk. And in fact, he wasn't able to.
Allowed to because they burned the place down rather than
the riot police that came there had to take shelter. Yes. Such was the venom and the aggression.
And they had to warn him not to come.
No, you're paying for these students to go on campus to learn something, but what they learn is street language. Because you don't need to go to university to argue. To argue, I use the word argue in quotation
marks. By setting a fire.
By setting fire, breaking up the place. No, you don't need to do that. You can do that from just sitting on the street. Yeah. So why have the universities come to this place?
What is that about?
What has brought them?
And we should say that it's not an isolated incident.
No.
Okay, it's probably one of the more extreme forms of expression of disagreement.
Yeah.
But it's not an isolated incident. It has happened at other campuses where speakers are violently prevented from saying their point of view. And Coulter was prevented from giving her point of view.
There was an Australian feminist, Germaine Greer, who, because she said that transgender women, who are really biological men, are not women, she was to speak on a campus in England. I can't remember which one, but they made sure she couldn't do it. So we're having this way of debating, of using power.
Or not debating.
Well, yeah, I use the word debating tongue in cheek. So there is this way of university students expressing their disagreement and taking the debate in the form of what you would talk, street talk, rather than what you would expect coming out of the academy.
Well, it's violent suppression of free speech. That's what it is. And the question is, why is it happening in universities?
And the reason, of course, it's happening is because this is a manifestation of what is known as cultural Marxism. Cultural Marxism. And cultural Marxism has its roots in Marxist ideology. And we want to introduce our listeners to one of the persons who, to be fair to him, he doesn't accept the anti-intellectual way that leftist students behave nowadays. But he was one of the pillars, the philosophical pillars, on which cultural Marxism was built.
Okay, but he may not accept the way they are expressing that now, the extreme way. But shouldn't he have anticipated that it would come to this?
No. Actually, in the video we're going to show, because we're going to show an interview with a gentleman by the name of Herbert Marcuse. I hope I pronounced his name properly. I have challenges with name, and he was a French thinker, but he was one of the original people from what's called the Frankfurt School. And he is being interviewed by a philosopher who will tell us, and we will take it up from there, how the Frankfurt School, its brand of Marxism, etc., morphed into what we are seeing on campuses like the University of California at Berkeley.
Right, but the question I'm asking, and I would invite the readers to think about, should it have been anticipated? Should they have been able to predict that if we take society along this way of labeling people, putting them into compartments, saying this one is an oppressor and this one is oppressed, and doing that, shouldn't you expect this kind of confrontation to occur?
You know, actually, when you think about it, Marxism is about revolution.
Exactly.
And it's about confrontation.
Exactly.
It was about confrontation.
So it should have been anticipated.
So economic Marxism was about confrontation between the owners of production and the people who they oppress. So naturally, cultural Marxism would also manifest itself
as confrontation between persons in different labels. The containers are different, but it's still confrontation.
So inevitably it would lead to
should have been anticipated at this
point. And it is. So we are going to take a look now at an interview with Herbert Marcuse, one of the leaders of modern leftist thought and one of the founders of the Frankfurt School.